Hey you guys, I'm Lisa from theScore eSports, and I'm here with Kobe to pick his brain on the upcoming playoffs, promotion tournament, and much more. How are you this morning?
Great, thank you.
You seem wide awake.
Wide awake.
So-
Got my coffee.
That's good.
Ready to go.
Good. Okay, so let's get right into it. Playoffs is coming up.
Yes.
And let's talk about the team that's in first place right now.
Immortals, okay.
When the season started, did you predict that Immortals would be this strong and in first place this split?
I don't think anybody predicted that they would be quite this strong because there were a bunch of teams that had sort of super teams. You know, everybody in the offseason was grabbing talent from all over the world. And there were a couple of teams that were, rumored to be at the top in scrims and stuff like that. And Immortals were like number one in the scrims in the rumors, but I don't think anybody expected this level of domination.
Now let's talk about the 6 that are locked in for playoffs. I'm pretty sure we don't know the seeding yet, but we do know who's going to make it in. So we have Immortals, C9, CLG, TL, Energy, and TSM. Any surprises there?
Not really. Like there was some surprises at the very beginning of the season, but it's all kind of shaken out to where people kind of expected these teams to end up in the playoffs. With the exception, TSM maybe a lot lower than people thought because they've had a really rocky early start. But yeah.
Okay, we have to ask you. We love predictions at theScore eSports. So playoffs right now, who do you think will win the regular spring split?
The easy one would be to go with Immortals, but I'll spice it up, go with the upset for Cloud9. I think they can do it.
Really? I think there's a chance that they might play the tiebreaker against CLG, right? So actually,
For the number 2 spot.
number 2 spot, sorry. With playoffs, it's going to be a best of 5, correct?
All of them are going to be best of 5s, yeah.
Exactly. So with this format in mind, how do you think that will affect the teams playing in the playoffs? Do you think it will change how they approach the game?
It's really interesting, yeah, because Immortals, the other thing is not only have they only lost one game, but they also haven't really been pushed in picks and bans. And so best of 5s, I hope that we do get to see a lot more from Immortals, and more from these teams that are trying to take them down. Obviously, everyone's looking to them as the number one that they have to get past to, win spring.
Do you think we'll actually see more pocket picks or surprise picks because of the best of 5?
I mean, maybe we've seen things like CLG will pull out these weird split pushers that we haven't seen from them before, like Yasuo into Nautilus, ill-advised. Maybe he pops up for one game, something like that, or the Vladimir they tried at IEM.
Just to keep things interesting.
That didn't work either. But yeah, so maybe in the best of 5, people will be more willing to try and pull out, we have this one thing that we're pretty sure works. We've only used it a couple times, but we're desperate now, and we need to get this one or to get back in the series. And you see more things like that come out.
So there's a chance.
Yes.
Okay, now let's move on to the promotion tournament. So although it...
I like that we call it the promotion tournament.
I know,
too,
it's like...
because most of the LCS teams think of it as the relegation tournament.
I like to think
We're
of these
optimistic, though.
glass half
Promotion.
full, glass half
Yeah.
full, So let's call it promotion tournament, but also relegations, depending on which team you are.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not cemented yet, but most likely the teams that are going to be in the relegation tournament is TIP, Dignitas, and Renegade.
Yeah.
Surprise! So with those 3 teams in mind, how strong do you think they are compared to each other? Like, how close are their strength when you compare them together?
I think Impulse and Dignitas have some wiggle room, and actually even Renegades. I think Renegades might be able to jump up over Impulse and get out of 10th place. I think that would be the only sort of big move, because Renegades have actually had a lot of good gameplay, a lot of good early games at least, and obviously the big upset over TSM did a lot for the morale for that team.
And just recently, Apex won the Challenger Series. Yep. And so I think they got the favorable seeding. They're going to be facing the 9th LCS team in the promotion tournament. So Apex, let's talk about them for a bit. What do you think are their main strengths as a team?
So I think St. Vicious is a really good coach. I'm a little bit biased just because I've been friends with him for 6 years. Since CLG, I guess we started off not friends since he replaced me, but he's played League of Legends since the very beginning, and he's thought about the game for that entire 5-6 years worth of time. And I just think that he does bring a lot of experience to the coaching role, and that's really good, especially for these new guys. They've brought over a couple of Korean stars for talents there, and he's working with Xpecial as well. I just think they bring a lot more experience than a lot of these other challenger teams can, because it's really hard to even find that. Plus, then they have the wild card Keen. I love Keen pocket picks that come out. You talk about pocket picks. This is the team to look for with those. The Graves that he used in mid lane was great.
All right, and Apex right now they have the 2 junglers. They're switching, I think, between Eve and Shrimp. So how do you think that affects Apex's playstyle, like when they alternate, and like what kind of playstyle do each jungler bring to the team?
I feel like Shrimp is the Rek'Sai player, obviously, and I feel like Eve is more, obviously the Elise and the Rek'Sai are the 2 like iconic champions for those 2 guys. Eve, a little bit more gank oriented, a little bit more pressure for the lanes in that way. And it's really cool to be able to switch those 2 guys out because they're both so strong. And obviously their coach is a jungler, so Saint can work that in with the overall team comp that they try and draft.
Now let's move over to Renegades and TDK because there's an interesting storyline there. Their rosters have switched, they kind of just like switched players. So how does
Look out for Renegades.
So how do you think the fact that they've played together before on each other's rosters, how do you think the fact that they're close in that way will affect their matchup potentially in this tournament?
I don't think they have that good of a chance to get in. I think that Apex actually have a pretty good chance to get promoted. And so that's why I think the LCS teams are really trying to just get out of their way kind of. But I do have a lot of faith in the LCS teams, whatever ones end up there. I think both Team Dignitas and Impulse could actually defeat them. So I think that they'd be able to stay in.
And now, once again, we have to do the predictions. And once again,
I guess I just did.
Yeah, I know. Just so the 3 teams, just right now, the 3 teams that you predict will get out of, win promotions.
There's only technically 3 in it right now.
That we know for sure.
So I could just say those 3 teams.
Come on, play the game.
Okay.
Play the game.
Well, I'll give Apex. I'll give Apex an entry. I think Dignitas will stay in if they even have to play in it, and I'll say Renegades actually pass Impulse, and Impulse gets knocked out.
There you go. That's the predictions. Now let's look even further in the future. I kind of want to throw it to internationally, and so the last time we saw NA play at an international tournament, IM Katowice, we saw TSM made it to the semifinals. CLG. They lost it. They had a hard bracket. To be fair, they had a hard bracket. They lost
Unlucky.
to SKT. Unlucky, but they did take a game off Fnatic. So what do you think? How do you think NA ranks amongst the international scene right now? And what do you think is the thing they need to focus on to kind of stand, not a chance, to, no, Savage, I know, okay.
That's fair.
No, but to actually, take some games off international teams.
So we'll start at the beginning there. Where do we stand now? It's pretty much where we've been standing for the last couple of years. I don't think actually much has changed internationally. Korea's still obviously top dog. China comes in with a lot of hype. They still have great team fighting, but there's always something about the meta that the rest of the world is doing well that they're a little bit slow to catch up on. I don't know if there's something going on with coaching there, but in Europe, obviously, both at Worlds and at IEM got a step further at least than North America. We come in we're very optimistic whenever we go to international events, and we try and get ourselves hyped up. But every time we seem to come short in some aspect. CLG specifically, since that was kind of the big letdown for North America, because we were really hyped up to see CLG try and go far at IEM since they had just taken down Immortals, as well as Cloud9. And they did try something new, even though everyone's like, oh, they only split push. They tried to split push with in a different way, and got countered pretty quickly by a Banner of Command minion. But there's always those little takeaways. And I do kind of like that CLG are honing in and they're focusing on one strategy, one team identity. Like, we are the split push team, and we're going to try all these different kinds of split pushing and, figure out the very best way to play the game with high pressure. Whether they're able to do that in time for the next international event, MSI, or if they're even able to get to MSI, I don't know. But North America in general, we're always hopeful, but realistic with our expectations.
Okay, well, to wrap up the spring split, I wanted to do kind of like a mini award show in a way. So which champion do you think stood out this spring split. So when I say that, I mean like the most overpowered, or maybe the most, like, the most broken champion, or maybe the champion that made the most impact this split. Who do you think? Which champion do you think it would be?
The most impact over the whole split. That's interesting because we've had so many patches.
Exactly.
Like coming out of Worlds, Gangplank was at Worlds. He's like here, and he slowly got nerfs, but he's still extremely strong. I don't know if that would be like the most impactful though, because that was like kind of a carryover. Kog'Maw, when he first got the changes and the buffs, was pretty impactful. Yeah. I think more for some people than others, though.
The one that stands out in your mind.
Single individual champion, probably Fiora for me, just because I'm North America. And in North America, Fiora has been this outstanding split push champion, and everyone cries when they have to play against her and they get split pushed. And I think that she does get the award for North America. Hasn't had the same success in all the other regions.
And finally, to wrap up, who do you think would be most likely to win MVP for Spring Split?
Most valuable player. My first reaction is going to be Reignover, just because Immortals have dominated so heavily, and he's such a big part of that, and everyone in the league respects him so much. Plus, he's a jungler. But I think that if there's someone who can catch him and someone who can overtake him, it would be Jensen, because his individual plays, his ability to 1v1 people, just dodging skill shots, the mechanical play there is very impressive.
All right. Thank you so much, Kobe. And thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this, be sure to check out the rest of our content on our channel.